The Carolina Panthers were 2.5 or 3-point favorites coming into this game against the Cowboys. They lose by 16. We're joined by Locked On Panthers host Julian Council. Julian, was this a case of Carolina just not knowing how to handle being the favorite for the first time in 2 years?
I guess, maybe. 729 days, what I saw, is how long it's been since the Panthers were favored in a game. And 33 games it was until they had been favored again. At 2.5 the last time I looked at it. Maybe it was not being able to handle the positivity of the last couple of weeks, playing Philadelphia close last week, playing Kansas City to the brink, Tampa Bay as well. Or maybe it was just the little things that cost them in those games that really stacked up today with the turnovers, the inability to stop the run, and some of the mismatches there in the secondary defensively. I think that was probably the main issue today. But maybe not being used to being the favorite was also a problem for this team.
I want to talk about the Panthers' defense. We're going to get to Bryce Young and all that coming up in a few minutes. But this defense had problem with the rush, both Cooper and the run game. The actual rush was either more concerning to you?
The Cooper Rush thing, probably a little bit more concerning, as I know Cowboy fans have had this weird love fest about him when they wanted him instead of Dak Prescott, which is insane because look at you now, Dallas. You're not winning a lot of games without Dak, even though Cooper Rush did play well. But to have 3 touchdown games and to have situations where Xavier Woods gets lost in coverage, Jordan Fuller is matched up twice on that scoring drive to C.D. Lamb, I didn't understand that. Now, the run defense is another thing that we've become accustomed to, as this is far and away the worst run defense in the NFL and likely going to be the worst run defense in the history of this organization. Now, when it's 30th season, 3 straight weeks now, they've given up 200-plus yards on the ground. That did not surprise me. What really surprised me was Cooper Rush throwing for 3 touchdowns, as we've become accustomed again to just the league worst rush defense every single week.
Okay, you talk about the matchups and C.D. Lamb being matched up with Jordan Fuller, a safety. The Panthers seem to have a cornerback that could shadow the other team's best receiver, but according to J.C. Horn, who kind of bristled at the narrative after the game of why he's not following receivers, it's part of Ejiro Evero's scheme. Should it be?
Well, I'm not going to sit here and tell Ejiro Evero whether his scheme is the right scheme to work here in Carolina. I just, sitting back watching this game, wonder why you would put yourself in a position to have Jordan Fuller, who's a fine enough player, against one of the top 5, 10 receivers in the NFL, especially when you have a guy in J.C. Horn who has been phenomenal this year, has been able to finally stay on the field and has been healthy, and I'm sure relishes those opportunities. So is it the scheme? Probably. Is it the right decision? Probably not. Am I someone to sit here and tell him you're doing it wrong? No, but we can all sit here and wonder, is really that what you're trying to accomplish here on Sundays against C.D. Lamb?
Bryce Young had 4 turnovers. He was also sacked 6 times.
Yeah.
That's the most he's been sacked since the Cowboys got him 7 times last year. What happened to this offensive line on Sunday?
I don't know. I really don't. 22 sacks they had given up coming into this game, and not every sack can be attributed to the offensive line. Sometimes those are on the quarterback as well. And I did not see this one coming. And when you're down like Carolina was, where it was 10-0, then 10-7 going into the half, I did not expect immediately on that first play that Damian Lewis is going to get beat like he did and Bryce Young's going to fumble. And when you're in a situation when you're down 2 scores, 3 scores late in the game, teams can pin their ears back. And we heard a lot about this last year where you saw Iquanu, who struggled, gave up 2 sacks in this game. We saw other guys struggle on that offensive line, where when you're constantly having to drop back, the defense knows what you're going to do. It becomes predictable, and that makes it easier to tee off. So I think that's part of what happened, as all those sacks came in the second half. It wasn't like he was under siege in the first half. It's just uncharacteristic to what we've seen so far this season from a position group that the Panthers spent a ton of capital on this offseason and has really been one of the strengths of this team in what has been a lost year at 3-11 right now.
Julian, I feel like a game like this for Bryce Young earlier in this season, you'd have to pick him up off the field.
Yeah.
It didn't seem quite like that in this game. Dave Canales said he had a good look in his eyes the whole game and had some fight. How much of this could spiral? How much of it was just bad day?
If it were week 2, I would be concerned. Considering what we had seen the 5 previous weeks to week 15 and the 4 turnovers today, I'm not all that concerned about Bryce Young. Now, you did ask me last week whether I was in on him being the quarterback in 2025, and I told you, let's wait to see how the final 4 weeks play out, because of games like this were always possible, as there's still a ton of bad tape out there on Bryce and his time in Carolina. Now, I want to excuse most of last year, the first 2 weeks of the season, hard for me to excuse, and today, can't really excuse it either. But it happens. It's the NFL. Quarterbacks have bad days, and Bryce had a bad day. But overall, aside from the turnovers, it was, well, of course, fine. And that's the point. You turn the ball over, but yet you still looked confident in your throws. You still were accurate for the most part and didn't have any of those jittery feet like we have seen in the past. So I'm not all that concerned about Bryce. Would like to see him bounce back next week after he put together 5 really strong performances. And then this really, since he's come back, has been that outlier performance. So, no, I'm not all that concerned. Now, if we're earlier in the season, I would be. But after what we've seen from him since he got back in the starting lineup, no, I think he'll be all right.
He wasn't throwing 83-yard touchdown passes.
No, he was not.
Any concern with the grip on the ball? Some people brought that up. The 2 fumbles, the late interception looked a little wobbly.
I mean, if he doesn't say he had any issues and Dave Canales doesn't believe he's had any issues, then I think he probably didn't have any issues.
Let's talk draft, Julian. I thought we'd be doing this for the entire season, but it's really waited until now. They're slated 5th right now. Patriots and Jaguars lost. Earlier it was 3rd. Let's say the way these 3 weeks shake out, it is number 3, and we assume the Giants and Raiders are going quarterback.
Yeah.
Panthers need help on the front 7, but Mr. Heisman, Travis Hunter, might be sitting there. Is that tempting?
Yeah, they need help across the board defensively, obviously, as we've seen this year, and they'll get back to Eric Brown, so that will help in the aforementioned front 7. I do think they need help in the secondary. They're going to lose potentially going to lose all 3 of their safeties, as Xavier Woods, Jordan Fuller, Nick Scott, who's still on IR, are all set to be free agents after this year. And there's not an obvious player, maybe Devontae Richardson, maybe Jamie Robinson, who we haven't really seen a lot of this season, could step in there and start at safety. I'm not quite sure either one of those guys are long-term answers here in Carolina. So, yeah, Travis Hunter, who could not just help you defensively, could help you offensively if given the opportunity. I'm still skeptical whether he's going to get that chance, the Heisman Trophy winner out of Colorado. But here's something for you, actually. Because if actually you want to go defense, Abdul Cardi out of Penn State, that would be a guy as an edge rusher I think they should go look at. Mason Graham out of Michigan, like those would be 2 guys I think in the top 5 that make a lot of sense. But what if Carolina loses out, which I personally don't want to watch the next 3 weeks. But if they lose out, say they get ahead of the Giants and Raiders, 2 teams that they beat, and they're sitting there at 1 or 2. Wouldn't one of those 2 teams want to make sure they don't have another team behind them jump in front of them and take Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders? Like, if we're looking at the top 5 and the Panthers are likely to head there, best case scenario may be that they get up to 1 or 2, they find their sucker, like the Bears found them a couple years ago, and get the house for Ward or Shedeur Sanders potentially. So that's what I'm looking at if they're going to be in the top 5.
To do that, they're going to have to publicly question Bryce Young, though, almost for 2025 and make teams think they could go quarterback, right? I mean, if teams are convinced they're sticking with Bryce Young, why would they give him a haul?
Well, because they're worried that maybe, let's see, who?
Some other team would
some other team. I can't think of a team off the top of my head, but the Jets.
Yeah.
That's definitely a team that needs a quarterback. The Jets, maybe they want to jump up with Carolina. That would do it. Now, if Bryce doesn't turn the ball over 4 weeks or 4 times the next 3 weeks in each game, then they'll be fine. Like, if he plays the way he played against Kansas City and against Philadelphia and against Tampa, then there won't be much consternation of, are the Panthers going to go get Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders instead? It would be like, okay, Bryce really played well enough to come back in 2025, and the Panthers could then not even move that far back potentially. So, yes, you're right. That narrative will be out there, just like the narrative of, the Panthers are going to take a quarterback even though they already traded for Sam Darnold, which made it very obvious they weren't taking a quarterback. But we'll see what happens.
All right. Hopefully, no reaching for a quarterback, no desperation moves. I think we're.
Well, we are talking with the Carolina Panthers. Desperation moves is what they have been known for.
All right, Julian Council from Lockdown Panthers. Thanks for joining us.
Of course.